Thanks, Louis, for being my first guest.
No worries.
Second episode of Hello DJ. Like I've already explained to you, this is something I want to integrate in the show. Get some local artists, international artists one day. Let's dream big. Who knows? And just get your insight into dance music, why you became an artist, DJing, basically everything. So we'll start off nice and simple. If you can introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're based.
So yeah, cool. I'm Louis Millne. I'm a DJ and producer from Liverpool. Currently living in Liverpool, but I've only been here about 2 or 3 years. Used to live in Leeds, but I moved down for uni, and that's sort of how DJing and producing starting as well.
How did you get into dance music, and how long have you been producing and DJing for?
So in terms of like my first time experiencing any sort of dance music, I think was maybe I was 16, 17, going out with a fake ID, trying to get in any club possible. And I think the first thing I ever went to was like a drum and bass line rave, which in Leeds is like the thing. Like bass line is the thing in Leeds. So went to like a rave, and I mean I'm a bit past that style of music now, but it's coming to uni, you've got so much spare time, and moving to a city like Liverpool, where there's so many different like events and stuff on. I remember going to like Circus, for example, plenty of raves like that. And then in terms of how I got into it specifically, one of my course mates in first year had his own decks of some little Newmark, I don't even know what they were, but little things. And then he just came around and we had a mix. And I think that Christmas, so 2, 3 months into uni, I was like, you know what, I wanna get some decks and start DJing myself, and producing came on pretty quick after that as well.
Do you have a favorite process when it comes to writing and producing? And is there a place you pull inspiration from?
You know what, my production is, I wouldn't say it's like a set method as such. I mean, so like I spent those two first years just getting the basics down, and my music style has changed over sort of the 3 or 4 years I've been producing. The first 2 years, obviously, you're nailing down the basics, but when I started like experimenting with the sort of direction I wanted to take it, I started making like progressive, melodic, almost breakbeaty stuff at time. So the sort of like the stuff I've learned is a lot of like the melodic elements, lots of harps, lots of strings, all that sort of thing. Which now that I'm making more house music, that definitely comes first. So the inspiration is I'll find some nice chords, usually piano, because that will make piano house, and then the strings and the harps come sort of part and parcel with it. They come really easy. And yeah, but in terms of like my process, I'll sometimes wake up at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night and go, "Oh, that's the chord." Like,
Do you
don't want
get
to say
to sort it
I,
out, or do you think I'll wait till the morning?
honestly, sometimes it's either a mix of like if I'm really, really tired, I'll like get my phone and sort of like hum it to my phone. But if I wake up like, you know what, I've got to give this a go, I'll get on the MIDI keyboard, it's just over there, get the keys down and go to bed, do that in the morning. So I say that I dream of music like that, but I think sometimes I wake up like that, those chords work really well. And then from there, once you've got the chords, I think piano house, it's obviously so chord based, that chord led, that once you've got that, you can work around the other elements quite easily.
Just a bit of background info for anyone listening as to how we came to meet each other. I think if I remember rightly, it was after I released Poolside with Sonny Fodera, and and you jumped into the old Instagram DMs and connected that way, and we have got a little song in the bag, but we won't talk about that too much. We'll keep that. But do you find vocalists that way? Is that the easiest way? Is there another way you do it? And is there anything that catches your eye, or catches your ears, I should say, when you hear vocalists?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm very lucky now that my manager is great at trying to put me in rooms with these people. But I think probably the better thing to say is maybe like 6 months to a year ago, where I was trying to like source focus myself, probably more helpful for people. And I think like I did with you, I'd heard you on a track that I was, so like artists that I'll listen to, and then I'll think, oh, that vocalist sounds really good. And I wouldn't say there's necessarily anything that's like a key about like someone's voice. I just think if sonically I think that would sound good on a track that I produce, or just that I'd like to get working with them, then I'll just reach out to them. I mean, sometimes it's easier to reach out to management, but if you can reach out to someone directly, I just think that's the better way to do it, because then you're creating that relationship rather than just going through management all the time, which I know some people do. But if you can create that relationship with someone, and if it sounds good on the ears, then why not give it a go? We're all here to make music, aren't we? So why not?
Onto the DJing side of things. Can you remember doing your first DJ show? And if you can you talk me through it?
I can. So it was, well, if we're excluding like small house parties, in terms of like an actual show.
I want to hear about them as well, though, actually.
Well, the first, I think, honestly, I think I did a house party, more like flat party, student flats. Honestly, I think I did 2 weeks into DJing, and I really feel bad for whoever was at that flat party that night, because oh my, 2 weeks in, I would have known nothing. I did a couple of flat parties, but then the first one, because it was COVID, it was a sat down one, which I don't think was necessarily the worst thing in terms of setting my expectations low. But it's only ever been up from there. But it's at a venue called Checkpoint Charlie, which is on Brick Street down at Baltic, which is shut now. The venue's shut now, unfortunately. But it was about 150 capacity, like seated, like I said, and it was, I think I did the first hour or maybe the first 2 hours with a mate back to back. But yeah, that was the first time I'd ever DJ'd out. But it was a self-run party, so me and two other guys ran the party. So it was a lot of mates there as well, just a bit of fun. So it was quite relaxed. But yeah, that was my sort of first memory of DJing out to anyone. As much as it's not like the best scenario with being seated and really, really, really small capacity because of COVID, I think it's been good because it set my expectations low. So every time I've done a set, sort of almost like a year or two, every set got better because more people, and at some point you're allowed to stand up and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Do you have any pre-show rituals or traditions before you head on stage? Like, do you get nervous, and do you know how to calm them nerves? Or is it just, does it fade away in the first song?
I wouldn't say like rituals or stuff, but I am OCD with my USBs. And it's going to sound mad, I take 4 USBs to every event because I'm scared that one of them's going to break.
That's just smart.
Well, everyone's like, oh, definitely take a spare USB, and I take it a step too far, probably. Take 4, all with this exact same tunes, the exact same thing loaded on. But I take 4 USBs, and then, as you can imagine, every time before a set, I'll test them out at home just to make sure everything's on there, and I will plug them in, and they'll be perfect. I'll take them out, and 2 seconds later, I'll go, give them another go just in case. So I just think no ritual stuff, but I will spend 20 minutes plugging in and out these 4 USBs, just making sure they all work.
My next question was going to be about Circus. So please tell us, what was that like? I've seen videos and it just looked insane. I mean, I think anyone who might be listening has probably seen that warehouse and the sheer size of it. How did that come about, and did it meet every expectation you had?
Yeah, so the party is obviously at Blackstone, which is always run, well, I think it's pretty much always run by Circus, isn't it? I don't think I've seen an event not run by Circus, sorry. But it was in partnership with Solotoko / Sonny Fodera, so that's Sonny's label. And in terms of how the booking came about, I'd signed music to Sonny's record label. I think it came out in June or July of last year, and I've got some new stuff coming on the label this year as well. And then I went to his Warehouse Project show, which was end of last year as well. And he brought me out for my track there at Warehouse Project, which at the time was like a mad moment to me anyway. And he just said after the show, he was like, oh, I might look at booking you for some stuff. Like, just send me like a mix over just so I know you're on the Solotoko sort of vibe. And then, yeah, just maybe a couple months later, I got an email through saying, yep, Circus Liverpool. I mean, that was crazy because I wasn't even under management at that point either. So I just got the email into my own email box and all that, sorting all that sort of stuff out, but it was mad. And in terms of like the actual event itself, I was more than happy to play to 10 people if that was all who turned up in that first hour and a half. You obviously, like, a warm-up set's a warm-up set, you build it through, and it's a skill in itself. But I was saying to my mates, I was like, look, by the end of my hour and a half, even though it's a 4,000-ish capacity venue, there might be 20 people in it. It might take time to fill up. I was like, don't be disheartened, because I'm more than happy to play to anyone who turns up today. And honestly, by the like 90 minutes in, so well, maybe a little bit before, about 10 minutes left, there was a good 1,000 people in that venue. Boy, what you've seen on the videos, and yeah, that was just, for me, definitely probably not a moment where I said, "Oh, I've made it" or anything like that, but it was definitely a moment where I've gone, "That is the biggest thing I have done so far by a mile." And I just sort of like took a moment. I was like, "Yeah, like I want to carry on doing this. This is the sort of parties that I want to play."
Well, then I suppose I'm going to jump to another question I was going to save for later. But what is your favorite kind of booking? Is it a sweaty after party, a day rave, a club setting, a warehouse?
Yeah. I think what was great about Circus actually is you get that daytime party, and then they also do an after party at WAV, which is your sweaty underground club. So that booking almost came with two at the same time, which I can't really complain at that. If it was just a one-off, I'd probably take the big warehouse booking, because you're in bed by 12 o'clock and you can't complain.
Oh, great.
I'm an old man at heart. Do your gig. The gig finishes at 11, in bed for 12. Can't complain.
I feel like most people I talk to, like in writing sessions, are just like, yeah, as long as I'm in bed by a decent time, I'm happy.
Honestly, you think it's the other way. You think the people who are like involved in the music would think, obviously there's some party people there, but I think a lot of us just like, get me doing my thing, have a little bit of a drink and a party, but get me in bed. Get me.
And I think, we're seeing more and more about these like sober ravers, people who just go out, don't even like drink, don't take anything, whatever. It's just go out, listen to music, go home. I mean, they're winning really, because waking up the next day feeling fresh.
Yeah. Well, I've sort of been trialing that a little bit recently. So my new manager, Francis, is not going to use the word teetotal because that implies that you've, but just so it's like she goes sober to everything now. And I'd sort of like thought, you know what, coming into this year, I was like, I'm going to experiment that with a little bit. So I'd been to like a circus event this year sober. It was Millne actually, Millne and Mason Collective at Invisible Wind, and I did that completely sober. And the next morning I did wake up and I was like, this is nice. Like up at 8, go to the gym the next morning after a rave was something that I'd never done. And it was a nice feeling to wake up completely sober. But yeah, I think it's definitely something that people will probably more look at as well. I think a lot of DJs are coming out and saying you don't have to, like, the expectation that you get like fucked up basically, like you don't have to do that. You can just enjoy yourself with the music. I think it's cool.
You said it yourself before, but was Circus your biggest pinch me moment, or has there been anything else?
Yeah, I would say Circus is the biggest moment for me so far. I think at the time there's been like pinch me moments that have gone on. So for example, like when Sonny brought me out at Warehouse Project to play Closer, for example, like at that time that was like, wow, that was the pinch me moment. And 2 months before that, I was in the crowd when he played Closer at Creamfields, and that time that was a pinch me moment.
Did you know he was playing it?
He'd messaged me. Well, I'd messaged him on like the day. I think he was playing on the Sunday, and I messaged him saying, looking forward to seeing you today, because we were gonna like meet up and have a catch up and whatever anyway. And he was like, oh yeah, make sure you're in the crowd. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you know what I'm gonna play. And I was like, oh, sick. Oh. So yeah, so I knew. So I think Michael Bibby was on at the same time. So I was like dragging some of my mates away from Michael Bibby to come and watch Sonny, because I was like, I can't miss this.
Longer play, guys, come on.
Yeah. Literally. Then that was the biggest pinch moment at the time, and then stuff like that. And then, but yeah, so at the minute where I'm currently at, Circus clears all of that, because I could play my own tunes and play out to that many people. It's just a real thing for me.
So have you had one tip for producers or DJs looking to start from scratch? Is there any advice?
I'll try and do one for each. I think they are very different. DJing is track your progress, and I'm like a big sort of advocate's probably quite a strong word, but I definitely push tracking your work. And by that I don't mean like Excel spreadsheets. I mean do a mix every 2 weeks, and then in 6 months' time look back and see, have you actually improved? Because it's really easy, especially at the early stage, to improve quite quickly. So do a mix every other week and sort of challenge yourself to do longer mixes. I mean, like, I was going through my computer the other day trying to clear some space, and I found like a 15-minute mix. And I mean, I never dream of doing a 15-minute mix now. Like, it's an hour. Like, I now know that an hour is standard. But when I started DJ, I was doing 15-minute mixes, thinking like that was the thing. So I think definitely like record your progress, and then you can look back within a short period of time and think, you know what, only a month ago, I couldn't mix for longer than 10 minutes. And now I could do an hour and work on that. Production. Stay consistent. Easily stay consistent, because I think your first year or two, if you're honest with yourself, the music that you'll make is pretty average. You just need to like learn the basics, and it takes time and it can be frustrating. But if you stick at it for a good year or two and learn all the basics, then you'll be able to start experimenting a lot more with the type of music that you make, and you'll sort of find the sound that you want to make as well. You'll sort of find new things that you maybe didn't know you were interested in terms of like sonically sounding things. So yeah, stay consistent, give it a good year or two, start making some original music, and yeah, you'll be flying by that point if you're stuck at it for 2 or 3 years.
Do you have any big plans for your artist project? Any writing camps or a world tour?
we're not at world tour stage yet.
One day.
One day. I've got, to be honest, my releases, I probably can't say too much, but my releases are effectively sorted for the year. I've got a release, not too sure when this is going out, so 17th of March is my next release. And then I've got one in May, I've got one in June, August, October. Like, the year is effectively done for releases, which is really sort of a nice feeling to sort of, I don't have the stress of having to make some music out there to fill a gap. So I've got all that music coming out, which is really cool. So I've never really planned music that far in advance before. I've usually signed a track, moved on to the next, whereas now getting all that music out for the year. And in terms of shows, got a couple Liverpool ones, Leeds, Amsterdam in April, Malta in June. So yeah, starting to play like some different cities and some different countries as well, which is really nice.
We're at the end of the Q&A, so before I thank you, do you have a song that you would like me to close the show with, whether it's one of yours or just something that you can't stop listening to at the moment?
I think I'm going to go with a track called Out of My Depth by Cheney featuring Nula. Cheney is just an amazing producer who I've been digging his stuff for a while, and Nula is a singer who I actually have a track coming out with this year, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, Out of My Depth by Cheney featuring Nula is the track I'd like to play.
Thank you for being my first guest.
No, thank you for having me on. It's been cool.
Hopefully have you on again soon. And for everyone watching and listening, where can they find you online?
Instagram is at Louis Millne. I think all my socials are at Louis Millne. 2 L's in Millne. I think that's the mistake that most people can't find you. Where are you? But yeah, I'm trying to post on TikTok more as well, actually. So there's some stuff over on there. Yeah. But that's a conversation for another day. Yeah, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud, everywhere. And if you want to listen to the music, obviously Spotify, Apple, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, all on there.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And everyone, go listen to Louis.